everyone, Alexander here with kind of a somber update. In all probability, although Inventures will hit its technical campaign goal, which is only 3.5K, it won't hit its real goal, which is roughly 12K. That's hard for me to say and hard for me to come to terms with because Inventures is genuinely my favorite game I've ever played. I've been working on this for 5 years. So this video is an update on what's going to happen with the game and also my eulogy or reflections on the game itself. To begin with, as I mentioned, I love this game and I will give it until a couple days before the end of the campaign before I cancel it. So obviously everyone will get their money back who's backed the campaign. And the first thing I want to do is I want to thank everyone who's been a huge part of this. Specifically my parents and my brothers and all my friends, especially Jay and David. I wouldn't have been working on this game for so long if there weren't so many people who believed in me and believed in the game. So super grateful about that. Second thing to note is just thinking about why the campaign failed. And I invested quite a bit of money into marketing and advertising, and there's a lot that I learned from the experience. So not going to sugarcoat it from a lot that I learned perspective, but there are lessons for me to take away from this. First thing I learned is that if you're going to put a game on Kickstarter, it should be fairly familiar, which is not to say it should be a rehash of anything, but Inventures is unlike any other board game I've ever played. It's the single best game for co-creating a story with people. Unfortunately, that's not a genre of game, and that's not why most people play games. And it would be very easy for me to hide behind that and say, well, it's kind of on the market then for not being ready for a game like this. But that's absolutely not the case. I got some very strong signals early on that although I love the game, it was going to be hard to communicate it with the public, particularly because Inventures has no specific theme. It's not pirate themed, it's not fantasy themed, and as a result, from a visual perspective, just showing someone the box, nothing sticks out to them, right? Nothing's going to resonate right away. Additionally, the core mechanic isn't like any other game. So whereas if you're playing a deck builder or a Euro game or something like that, it's much more easy to communicate that to prospective backers. And for those who don't know, all of the work that goes into a Kickstarter is done before the campaign really starts. And almost all of that is in the form of ads and advertising and ad optimization, where you're trying to build up your list of pre-backers so that when your campaign launches, it launches very successfully. That's why campaigns launch with a very low funding goal and then post fully backed in 20 minutes. It's not because people found it in 20 minutes. It's because they cultivated an audience and they informed that audience. And when they launched, they had that audience ready to go and back the game. So all of that advertising is done over social media, and it took me a long time to find ads that worked, in the sense that ads that were cost effective enough to grow my list of backers and VIPs. And one of the challenges is that because it took so long, a lot of my audience then wasn't fresh by the time the campaign started, meaning there weren't enough people who were recently aware of the game and recently passionate about the game. Additionally, Inventures is a storytelling game, meaning the game takes place in the creative space and the shared creative worlds that players create. It's a conversational game. And so from a visual perspective, you're not going to be able to communicate anything visually about the game that really explains what the game is. And I really struggled, although I put a lot of time and effort in to try to figure out how do I communicate what Inventures is in a way that resonates with people in 5-second chunks, right? Or a single visual image. And that simply wasn't possible with this game. And what I really should have done is reverse engineered it to figure out what kind of content would work well in ads and then design a game around that. Because the only thing worse than a perfect game that nobody sees is nothing. So I deliberately could have made my game worse by making it about a specific theme, which is what some people recommended. Oh, just make a fantasy themed game using Inventures so that it resonates more quickly. And I didn't want to do that, but that was very stubborn of me, right? So again, a good learning experience. It took me a long time to find ads that work. And eventually when I did make an ad that worked, I was so proud and excited about it. And I thought, okay, finally I figured out how to communicate what this game is to people, and the whole world will learn about it, or basically the audience that I was marketing to. But that audience was actually an additional problem, because Inventures is a storytelling game. And that is simply not a genre of game that exists, right? It's closest to a tabletop role-playing game, but it lacks a lot of the dice and the kind of numbers and the combat focus that's very common for role-playing games. What's really interesting, though, is when you make a game and when you advertise it, you have to advertise it to a particular audience. And that's also where theming is really important, because there's no audience, there's no way to target people on Facebook who are creative storytellers, right? That's just too generic a term. So you can market it to people who are who studied creative writing and who like board games, but again, because it's such an unusual game, there's no real way to target those people. Whereas if it was a game about pirates, you could target people who like pirates or the age of piracy or history or these other things. So one of my big takeaways, if I ever do something like this again, is to create a game that works with the existing industry framework of how to communicate an experience. Because really with Inventures, it is so different that I almost felt like I was trying to convert people to a new religion while speaking a different language, right? As it turns out, I did make a lot of strong connections with people who are super enthusiastic about the game. I'll be eternally grateful for those people. The reason I'm making this video, by the way, is I was cleaning up my apartment, kind of reflecting on the game, and I have a little studio set up that I'm sitting at right now that's obviously not very professional looking, but it's good enough for me. And I started packing up the game and I got really emotional. And I just realized the finality of this. You know, I've been working on this game for 5 years. I went through so many different iterations of the box design, just the box design alone, because I wanted to find something that felt really warm and inviting. And I'm really proud of where the box ended up. You know, even though it fails to communicate a specific mechanic, and it does feel like a bit of everything, and a bit of everything is a lot of nothing, right? Whereas if I just picked like a pirate theme, I could have made a game box that at least really clearly resonated with people. And if I'd done that, then I would have been able to create successful ads much sooner, which would have meant not stretching the project timeline out. As it stands, you know, we value grit and resilience a lot, but I also think that there is something, particularly in marketing or kind of concept resonance testing, where there's a lot of value to trying to identify what the market is telling you and not pushing against it too hard when you know you can pivot. So I'm kind of holding, this is a very morose way to say it, but I'm kind of holding a coffin here. I also like writing Gothic horror poetry. So I could get very dark and Gothic about it, but I will continue to play Inventures. I will continue to love this game. I will continue to move forward with creative projects. As it stands, the space that I'm most passionate about is studying the loneliness epidemic and trying to create solutions to help bring people together, which is really what Inventures was and is it's a game that brings people together to create experiences together in really meaningful, beautiful ways. So I'll share a link to the Substack where I've been writing a lot about the loneliness epidemic space and really studying the intersection of technology and society and evolutionary psychology, and that's kind of my professional background. As for Inventures, I mentioned that I'll cancel the campaign if it doesn't meet the backing goal. It's really tragic. Part of me hopes that some way someone will find out about it, and that I'll be able to find a way to resonate and make the game resonate with just the world. Because honestly, this is my favorite game that I've ever played. I've had so many amazing, meaningful experiences playing it with people that I love. And I feel like it's the best game ever for getting closer to the people that you love. Just a couple days ago, I played a game with my younger brother when he was visiting, and we played in a steampunk Wild West setting. And the way the story went, because the cards guide the story in such an unusual way, is that he was this debonair outcast from a whaling family in New England who set out to see the Wild West for himself and to escape from his family. And it turned out that he encountered his father, who was conspiring with Confederates to create an inland whaling empire by damming rivers, which is just one example of thousands of examples of how this game creates these really emergent, incredible stories that empower storytellers. Yeah, so again, I just want to thank everyone who's backed the campaign, who's expressed enthusiasm, who supported me through this. This might be the end for this game, but this is not the end for the creative projects that I work on. And again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.